So, the final level of Dispatch, the new game from Adhoc Studios, just dropped, and it's basically swallowed the internet whole. The game already has this insanely dedicated community, people making fan accounts, tweeting memes, proclaiming their undying love for the characters, and even saying they feel an actual void now that the story's over. And honestly, same here. I am one of those fans myself. I waited for the full release instead of playing episodically, and then binged the entire thing in 2 days. This game had captured my imagination ever since its first reveal, mainly because of the art style and that gorgeous animation. But I wasn't expecting to be blown away like this. With its visuals, its pacing, its performances, these characters are so charming and grounded and funny and emotionally rich that it makes total sense people feel a weird emptiness after finishing it. So today, I want to dig into why Dispatch hits people so hard, why these characters resonate so deeply, why the game is blowing up the way it is, and most importantly, how Dispatch is quietly reinventing what interactive storytelling can be. Because this genre wasn't exactly dead, but it definitely felt like it was on a downward trajectory. We've had great entries in the past. After Telltale blazed the trail, Quantic Dream gave us Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. Great games with high production value that made a real impact. There's also Life is Strange, which genuinely made the format feel alive again. Even Until Dawn found massive success, though that one leaned more into the play it with friends and watch the carnage style of virality. I am not a horror fan myself, so I can't provide extensive commentary on the game, but it definitely benefited from its own viral moment and became famous for being a fun game to experience with friends, play around with choices, and choose which characters would live or die. But after that wave, the genre cooled down. Every attempt to capture that magic again felt clunky, stiff, or just lacking soul. You could feel the seams between game and film more than ever. So why is Dispatch cutting through all the noise? Why this game, right now? Sure, there are surface level answers, great characters, and a compelling story. And sure, that stuff matters, obviously. But I don't think that's the core of it. Let's dig deeper. Let's start with the obvious elephant in the room, the aesthetics. Dispatch is just stunning. It's on another level compared to anything we've had in this genre. Not just ahead of Telltale's famously janky animation, but also beyond Life is Strange or even Detroit Become Human. And Detroit is the closest comparison here, which I'll revisit a few times, because it actually helps illustrate just how much Dispatch gets right. Detroit has high production value, absolutely, but it also has that slightly stiff, uncanny quality that happens when a game is trying so hard to mimic realism. Dispatch sidesteps all of that with an organic, cohesive art direction. It feels like you're playing a premium animated series, full of charm, full of motion, never awkward or out of place. Dispatch is easily the most coherent visual package we've ever gotten in one of these games. There are no out-of-place movements, stiff animations, or disturbing character models, staples of the genre that constantly remind us we are playing one of these games. And that alone is huge. The game is simply incredibly marketable the moment you lay eyes on it. And honestly, we've never had an interactive story that looks like this. Telltale can't touch it. Life is Strange and Detroit, both shooting for realism, ended up in that uncanny valley where you're constantly reminded, right, I'm playing one of these games. Not a movie, not a traditional game, stuck somewhere in between. Dispatch blows through that barrier. It delivers a visual package that's as polished and expressive as any animated show or film, and that alone lets the narrative breathe in a way this genre hasn't managed before. But visuals aren't the whole story. Next up, I want to address a big one, the characters. Other games have had great characters, Life is Strange, Tales from the Borderlands, The Walking Dead, so this alone isn't the secret sauce, as some of these games had incredible narratives and super compelling characters in their own right. But Dispatch amplifies everything by making some smart choices. The superhero angle, the office dynamic, the whole former villains trying to redeem themselves arc. These tropes could have felt tired, but the writing and performances elevate them. They feel honest, funny, warm, and layered in all the right ways. And then you have the romance options, which, let's be real, absolutely supercharge the game's virality. Two perfectly contrasting archetypes here. The composed, principled leader who's tender and attentive in all the right moments. The rebellious, mysterious, emotionally messy wildcard who's fascinating because they're a puzzle you want to solve. Both are magnetic, and both speak to completely different corners of the audience. That alone creates endless fan content, reels, edits, free marketing for days. And let's be real, romance in games is usually clumsy at best. Dispatch nails it. But romance is only a piece of the bigger picture. What really lands is how alive these characters feel. The chemistry, the tension, the humor. It all adds up to this cast you genuinely miss after the credits roll. The voice acting is honestly some of the best this genre has ever had, maybe some of the best in games, period. Pair that with the art style and the writing, and suddenly this world feels real in a way few interactive narratives ever manage. And this brings me back to my point about presentation, and how this trio of presentation, writing, and voice acting builds a beautiful, coherent, fluid world that we can play and interact with, thus building the first cornerstone and true differentiator of Dispatch's success. And that leads to something we've never had before, the chance to participate and take decisive action in a story with this level of presentation and immersion. Sure, we've had great narratives in games before, that's not what I'm saying at all. And yes, we have been allowed to participate and take decisive action in excellent narratives through this genre too. The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, Tales from the Borderlands, Life is Strange. Those games were fantastic, with iconic characters and decisions people still debate today. But they always reminded you what they were. They were these games, with awkward movement, stiff faces, clunky QTs. Yes, we had the privilege of participating, but there were strings attached. We were participating to this degree in a story, in a world, in a game, but it was built exactly for that, for us to participate, to enter the picture, to press the button at the right moment for the scene to continue. And I believe the games in this genre never truly allowed us to forget that. Deep down, I think we all assumed that's just what this genre was. Great storytelling and meaningful choices, tied to clunky presentation. But Dispatch lets you forget all of that. You're just in the story, making decisions that shape this beautifully animated world. And getting to decide the fate of a world this expressive and characters this engaging is a rare gift that Dispatch delivers. Which brings me to what I think is Dispatch's second major breakthrough, the gameplay. I genuinely think people aren't giving this part enough credit. Dispatch is the first game in this genre to actually rethink the formula, not just repeat its mistakes. Typically, with these games, you get the usual checklist. QTs, time choices, slow walking in tiny rooms, rifling through random objects, talking to stiff NPCs. That has been the name of the game, but it's filler. It's there to make you feel like you're playing, when in reality, your only meaningful interaction with these entertainment products is choosing dialogue options. And all these other segments in these games are some of the moments when we are clearly reminded we are playing one of these, a lesser version of interactivity than the games we are used to, in a lesser visual package than we are used to, in both games or movies and shows. Detroit, Life is Strange, Until Dawn, Telltale, none of them broke that mold. But Dispatch finally does. And I am sorry if it is a hot take, but Dispatch nails its gameplay and represents a step up in terms of actual integration and full synergy between gameplay and interactive storytelling. Some critics argue Dispatch has lesser gameplay, because there's no walking around and reading magazines or opening drawers. Because there is no exploration. But let's be honest, that stuff isn't gameplay. It's busy work. It's a band-aid. It is an illusion that you are participating in any way in these stories. The titles in this genre have been essentially shoehorning gameplay into otherwise great stories, just to check those boxes. But those moments are never memorable. They rarely connect you to the story or its characters. And they never reach the narrative's level of quality. This leads to the feeling those games often give you. This could just be a movie or a show. Well, no, not Dispatch. In Dispatch, the gameplay is essential and genuinely innovative for the genre. Why? Because it is the first time the gameplay of one of these games actually makes sense with the story it is trying to tell, and achieves a full level of integration and synergy between the two elements. You're not walking around, but you are actually engaging in gameplay that's serious, well thought out, and that connects with the story properly. The dispatching system is the first time we've seen mechanics that feel naturally woven into the narrative. The dispatching matters. It's fun. It gets challenging. It's something that could honestly stand alone as a small game in itself. And at the same time, those segments deepen your emotional connection to the characters, not just as individuals, but as a team you're managing and growing with. There are a lot of significant character building, plot points, and tender moments that happen during gameplay and dispatching sequences. They're not separate, they're intertwined. You're not just picking dialogue options, you're shaping the squad's abilities, balancing their strengths, thinking about who works well together, and then seeing all of that reflected back in the story. The narrative is about building a team, and the gameplay makes you feel that. That's the thing. Instead of gameplay feeling bolted on, it finally feels integrated. Instead of choices feeling shallow, they ripple through your tactical decisions. Instead of a story pretending you're involved, dispatch actually lets you be involved. When playing through the dispatching segments, you naturally think of your crew as a team, thinking about your roster, how to synergize, balance, and upgrade. And this is a case of perfect integration between gameplay mechanics and story themes and motifs, as the story is about a group coming together, finding their place, becoming something greater, where everyone fits together. That's just genius design from adhoc. You watch these characters grow emotionally, while also leveling up through the choices you make in gameplay segments, through the skills you're attributing. The gameplay experience here is additive to an already excellent package of story, writing, and visuals. The gameplay makes this entertainment product better and more valuable, much more than if it was just a show. Gameplay enhances story. Story enhances gameplay. It's all additive. This game is better because it's interactive, not in spite of it. You're not only shaping events through dialogue choices, you're doing it through the actual management you do at the desk. Which heroes you assign, who you upgrade, which ones you upgrade how strong they are by the final chapter. All of that has story implications. And that, in my opinion, is the second layer that makes Dispatch such an exceptional piece of interactive entertainment. A great game, and a new frontier for interactive storytelling, as it achieves a new level of balance between passive storytelling and active participation, wrapped in a convincing, cohesive visual package, bringing all these elements together beautifully. This seamless blend, the visuals, the writing, the emotional beats, and the gameplay that reinforces everything, creates an experience that doesn't feel like one of those games. It just feels like a great story you're living through. And honestly, that's revolutionary. Dispatch is a great experience through and through, one that will be hard to replicate. But it proves that if you strike the right balance, you've basically unlocked the key to players' hearts, and to the genre's future.
It's a little out there. Easier if we fly.